Right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Wednesday, January 31st edition of the Biweekly Special Interest Group for Contributor Experience team meeting. I'm your host, Keslin Fields. And a reminder, we do operate under a code of conduct, which essentially says to be respectful of your fellow speakers and attendees and generally be excellent to each other. We usually like to offer an opportunity here at the beginning of the meeting for anyone new to introduce themselves, totally optional, but if you would like to, you're welcome to do so now. I think we're mostly folks who have been on before, but the opportunity is open, and I will leave that open for a moment. All right. And the link to the notes is in the chat. I think I got it when everyone was on here, but if you're missing it, just let us know. We'll ping it again in the chat. Please do go ahead and add any topics that you want to talk about. Do we have anyone who wants to volunteer as note taker today?
I can take notes.
Thanks, Josh. Cool. Alrighty. So with that, I think we can go ahead and jump into our agenda. So we'll go through it as it is in the chat. Put any open mic general discussion items at the bottom of the agenda. First item up is events. The Contributor Summit planning is well underway. How are things going, folks?
Things are good. We finalized the design for the attendee t-shirts and got that over to CNCF. Registration is now open, and the first batch of approvals has been sent to us by Brienne. So we're going to be looking through that today. Yeah, I think things are going good. Comms are on top of things. I think the one area where there's a little work to do is we haven't had a ton of submissions yet for content, but I think there hasn't been a ton, but I think it is following the trajectory that it normally does for the event, which is to say we usually end up extending the CFP deadline and sending out some additional comms, and then we get the final wave of content. And so I think we're on track for like what we're usually achieving for that. Yeah, aside from that, I think things are still moving forward.
So
And thank you
yesterday,
to Mario for the logo.
yes. Yesterday I reached out to Natalie and informed her that the Slack bot is operational and is totally available for contributor comms to use.
Okay.
I did mention we should come up with some kind of process to add the comms lead for these things to that group so they can use the Slack bot. I'm not quite sure what needs to happen to make that a reality.
Yeah, it should be just being a part of that Slack user group.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So-
I know physically, like I know the bits and bytes of how to do that. It's just how do we tell the comms team or
We can probably add it to the manual for the handbook for comms. So as
Yeah.
part of their onboarding, they would reach out to the admin of that to get added.
Cool.
So I'll take an action to make sure that that gets added so that for future events, it is part of the process.
Mario.
Mute Josh?
Yeah, we basically discussed the very same yesterday. Natalie and all of the other shadows, we basically discussed this yesterday, that it might be a good idea to just list all of the available communication channels that can be used from the comms team, that this is also reflected in the handbook. And she already put it on her to-do list as well. So, but I guess it's a good thing, Xander, if you also just put it somewhere, because 2 people or 3 people can remember better than one.
Yeah. Mario, one of the things that we identified last time was that the actual handbook for Summit Comms is actually very light.
Yeah.
Most of the content is in that set of message templates, which can make it hard to get somebody up to speed if they haven't done it before. So one of the things that might be nice, I don't know if it's during the cycle, if it's after Summit, whatever, is to get not just the current Summit comms team, but also recruit some of the people who've done comms before for Summit and work on really building out the comms handbook. Because in a lot of ways, it's one of the most critical positions for Contributor Summit, and yet it's one of the most lightly documented ones.
Yeah, no, that's something Natalie mentioned.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, we can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe even at the summit if necessary.
Tangential to that, all the rule books have had over the last 3 or 4 at least, we've tried to get people to come in at the end and okay, now let's put everything we learned into the rule books, and then it just hasn't happened. It is definitely pulling teeth. So
yeah, well,
any ideas for better ways to do it would be welcome.
Honestly, what I think might be a way to sort of get them to jot the stuff down is to like literally have them do it in a Google Doc, like in the retro notes or something like that.
It's like
and
bullet
then
points. Yeah.
Yep. And then someone, can make it a task to go through and add that stuff to the playbooks. Because I think honestly, just the fact that the Google Doc is always there, and as things come up, people remember them. Like it's a lot easier just to quickly jot, oh, we need to do this next time, and record the note just instantly, than it is to remember to go back and open a PR and touch the markdown.
Yeah. I mean, one of the problems that you have with this, as we do with several other kinds of teams, is once the Contributor Summit is over, the Contributor Summit team doesn't want to think about it for several weeks. Right?
Right.
And then they effectively don't go back to it. Like, I have a couple of handbooks that I built out in a lot of detail, but but when I did that was not immediately after a summit, it was actually immediately before the summit cycle, right?
Yeah.
Because like, for example, for the party, I wanted to stop being in charge of the party. And so during the first week of the summit cycle, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this handbook complete so that someone else can take it over. And that might honestly be a better focus because not a lot happens for most of the roles during the first week.
Very good point. Yeah.
Would the timing work if we did it during like the last time slot of the summit itself and did a rulebook sprint and just got all the staff in one room?
I think people are going to be too
Right.
like, yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I know after contributor summits, like Chicago, for example. Sorry, Mario. Go ahead.
No, go. Continue your thought.
I know after Chicago, I was beat. So me sitting down and regurgitating my mental notes would probably not work well. So it might be beneficial to not do it there and do it the week of the formation of the team. That'd be very smart.
Or
we need to add that to the leads handbook. First week includes.
Yeah, I mean, an idea from my side would be, as we have it this year because of the special situation with ops, but the we always have the I can't pronounce it, the emeritus folks that basically they and maybe if a new team forms, then the first session or the first task is they sit down together with the emeritus folks and together update the handbook. So it's basically a task for the new team, but the input comes from the team from the last year or something like this. So then it's basically like, now we update the learnings from the last summit into the next summit. Because you can do this asynchronously, as Natalie and I sat down and I bugged her for a lot of questions, and she she already wrote something down, but maybe it would be better if I would have changed the things on the handbook, so that I can assure that it's inside of it.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. The additional thing I would also suggest is something we've done in the release team, which is for roles where we actually have apprentices of some kind, shadows or whatever, you can make one of the primary duties of the shadow to write things down.
Oh,
to ask questions and write things down. That's not a complete solution. We should also do the emeritus thing because a bunch of roles don't have shadows.
Yeah.
Excellent. A lot of good ideas going on here.
Yes.
Folks, good with this discussion. I think we've got a lot of ideas around how we can improve the process on keeping the handbooks for the Contributor Summit up to date, which we should discuss further in the Contributor Summit team meetings and implement some things. Anything else there that folks want to talk about? All right. Sounds good. Thank you everyone for the discussion. Next item then. Let's move on in the agenda to mentoring. Any updates on mentoring from anyone here?
We have a new LFX cycle starting. I don't know that we actually have any Kubernetes stuff in this particular cycle. It's a bad cycle from a Kubernetes perspective because of its coincidence of timing with KubeCon. Basically, the actual mentorship would start 2 weeks before KubeCon, which makes it very hard for the mentors to support mentees. So we didn't really do a bunch of internal outreach to get people to submit things because it's just not great timing. It works a lot better when the cycle happens to coincide where KubeCon comes more at the end of the cycle, and we can potentially even look at getting the intern to KubeCon. But I can actually look in to see if somebody just went ahead and submitted separately, because all the SIGs know how to submit on their own. And sometimes they do, particularly if the SIG already has a student who's involved with the SIG that they just want to find funding for. Which is good because those kinds of mentorships tend to go the best.
Good to know. We noted last time that it looked like the LFX program was starting up, but I didn't realize the timeline on that.
Yeah. Basically, they've closed the applications last week. They're choosing the mentees. Mentees are going to be final this week. Or no, sorry, programs are final now. Now they're choosing mentees.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'll admit the other reason why I don't push SIGs to participate in this is that the software is still terrible. And so I don't want to throw a SIG lead at it if they're not enthusiastic about it already. So
we also noted last time that I think Google Summer of Code and maybe Outreachy are also starting up, but do we have anything going on with those as far as we know?
Not that I know of.
Cool. Just checking.
Outreachy has also kind of been an issue in the past. We've not had good luck with that.
I mean, other than the fact that we haven't had anybody who wanted to run it for Kubernetes for 3 years.
Oof.
I do actually plan on taking that on later in the year, but my spring is absolutely terrible. And so I don't want to start as admin and then not be available for half the cycle, which is what I'd be facing. So I'm thinking about taking on the fall thing and trying to actually get some stuff together for outreaching. The other issue there will be funding it, and that'll really depend on the fiscal environment that we're operating in by fall. Like right now, that's the other reason why I wouldn't really make a push for outreachy, because unlike the other programs, they need additional funding. And right now, I'm not sure where that funding would come from.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Noted that we might look into that again in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any other questions, comments about mentoring?
Yeah, but Google Summer of Code, what is going on with the Google Summer of Code cycle?
I feel like that's kind of where it is. It's like, what is going on with that?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
should actually look at it. Okay. Let me put that on the notes for an action item to actually check on. Where did the notes go now? Hold on. Too many tabs. There we are. No. I have notes for about 50 meetings open right now. The okay. So
I should theoretically know them, but I don't.
Well, we can theoretically take notes on it then.
okay, so I just put an action item in there for the two of us. To
Mentoring.
check on what's going on with Google Summer Code. Because
Mentoring. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, that's it.
Okay. Mentoring is also an area where we've known for some time that we need additional help. We should probably, comms team should probably be working on some stuff to try to.
I don't know. I would not steer people towards it until there's someone that's actually knowledgeable to organize it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is an issue. It's one of those.
Yeah,
Is
I
the-
mean, that
Sorry.
said, I would say the comms team should be, potentially doing some of their stuff as mentoring opportunities.
Yeah.
Because I do know that y'all have a number of students involved with comms, and why not get them paid so that they can actually work on it full time for a season?
This is true. Quite
One
a
of
few of
the-
our students have done these types of programs as well for
Mhm.
other
Yeah.
open source projects. It makes sense for us to submit one. We haven't thought about that before, but we should
Yep.
put that on the agenda.
One of the big problems we have, like anytime we start the mentoring meetings, is people come to them assuming that they're going to get mentoring there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you end up
Mm-hmm.
talking to the potential mentees for the whole meeting, but you don't end up planning any actual organized mentoring activities.
Yeah. So like if they spin back up again, need to call it something that's not like, don't put mentoring in the title somehow.
Okay. The other big problem with mentoring meetings, and the reason why I would
Senior
tend
leadership meetings.
to steer away from meetings is, at least previously, the people that we had involved with interested in organizing mentorings really had around the globe syndrome. As in, we very definitely had people on both coasts of the US, in Oceania, in Asia, and in Europe. And it was impossible to find a meeting time that covered more than 50% of the people who were interested in being at the meeting. So that was why, for a while, Marty was really trying to make the Slack asynchronous meeting thing work. And it just didn't really work.
Understandable. Yeah, it's an area that needs a lot more focus and a lot more people to make it work well.
Mhm.
And that's just hard to get going. A lot of knowledgeable, senior, leadery people. Need a mentoring retro before we can start it back up again. Yeah, probably. I'm glad we're having this discussion today, though. It's a good topic for us to keep in mind and try to work on. Any other questions, comments, discussion about mentoring? Thank you for joining today.
Thanks, Jay.
No, that's about it. I can be more active on mentoring in the fall.
Yeah. Sounds good. We'll check back in then.
And obviously, if someone else, gets a fire under their butt, feel free to start without me.
I'm sure that won't happen until at least after CubeCon, and who knows what'll be going on then.
Because all our plates are so empty.
Yep. Okay.
We are at the buffet
yeah?
of open source tasks.
Yeah, again, infinite tasks, which that's the advantage, is that you never have to be bored. There's always something to do.
That's certainly true.
That's the advantage of open source, is that you can always pull something off the stack.
And you can also
and take a
always
look at
be
it and
burnt
go
out.
like, oh wow, this is way more messed up than it looked. Maybe I should put it back.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of a comic that I thought about drawing the other day.
Yeah.
I'll work on that.
I'm also thinking about the pick your battles meme.
Oh yeah.
Right, pick your battles. No, that's too many battles. No, that's still too many battles. Put some of those back.
Yep. I'm thinking of like a pile of things that are work and someone climbing up to the top of the pile looking for the work.
Right.
Indeed. All right. Let's move on from mentoring and talk about comms. Is there anyone here who would like to represent the comms group today?
I mean, if no one else is going to volunteer, I can. So good news, Kazan got us LinkedIn through all the fun things. And
that was like 2 weeks ago already.
yeah, I can't believe how quickly it's come and gone.
Oh.
Still need to get funding to edit to buffer, but we have admins that can post things. Just tag comms if you need it. Case in point, Natalie asked me to send a special message to LinkedIn for the CFP. So I pushed that out yesterday.
That is our first message on LinkedIn, I think. So.
Yeah. And then suddenly I looked at the analytics for the account. Like, just the fact we posted put everything like on a vertical trajectory as far as views, and
I noticed a lot was going on over there.
Yeah, like a lot of people tag it in other conversations too. So I think that's very interesting.
It's like if you can tag Kubernetes in your post, you do.
Yeah.
Right. Who doesn't?
Yeah. We actually have a LinkedIn geek, somebody who really likes LinkedIn as a social platform.
Oh yeah.
On our organizing committee for KCDLA.
Oh really?
I'd be happy to introduce you, because he'd probably be willing to also volunteer for Kubernetes in general. He's looking for ways he can contribute as a non-coder. So
hell yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I'm also trying to think of what else, but I'm looking at our docs.
Okay.
YouTube automation. Oh yeah, we've been hacking away at this quite a bit. We need to document. Nigel has some steps that he has to take after the fact. Mario has been working on helping automate Nigel out of the stuff he has to do after the fact. So Mario, any updates there? How's it going?
Yeah, so basically they introduced a beta endpoint which works quite well, so that you can talk just to the YouTube API and can use any endpoint that is available, which is pretty nice. So what we did is we tested that we basically moved the uploaded video into a playlist. The problem with this is we don't have the playlist ID inside of the recordings. So we basically need to create like a mapping, or like a mapping that knows that this is a SIG KS infra video and needs to go into the SIG KS infra YouTube playlist that is called XYZ so and so. So this is the next thing to figure out, and we basically probably need to get it either from the metadata of the video, which is there, so that's not a problem, or from the title and extract it with something. So this is basically the next step, and once this is done, we can continue there. And I had still the issue, although it should work, that an unpublished video is not accepted into a playlist, although based on the documentation, it should be.
Right. That
But
sounds weird. Yeah.
maybe we just something that I also thought of is if there needs to be a delay between uploading the video and then the video being there and pushed into the playlist, maybe we just have a job that, or a separate SAP that just sorts videos once per day into playlists.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Bob, you have your hand up.
Yeah. These days, I wouldn't say there necessarily needs to be a delay if that adds complication. We had a delay in place of the manual approval step as a just in case someone uploads something that contains a secret. But the amount of times that has happened in the history of all of Kubernetes has been once.
Yeah.
So I don't think like that is, if someone makes the mistake of recording and publishing a secret, then that's on them to change it. At least that is my opinion.
Yeah, there's no way
at this
to
point
easily check for it either, right? Like you have to have all the secrets to check for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Honestly, too, like the amount of people that watch the videos is pretty minimal. So it's mostly other contributors.
Yeah.
So like if adding a delay makes it more difficult, I would just eat it out and don't worry about it.
That's good to know. That I think this makes it easier, because then we also remove the manual publishing step afterwards that currently is Nigel.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, we need to make it less work for people.
Mm-hmm.
Up until YouTube breaks it again.
Yep.
Right.
Or Zoom.
Or Zapier.
Or both.
Or G Drive. My Zapier account actually isn't working. Like I can't do anything with it right now. So it's a thing that happens.
Yeah, I hope that next week we can next week I have something that takes the title and moves things into the playlist based on the title, and then that we can give it an actual go with one of the accounts and see what's happening.
I'm looking at Buffer. I'm wondering if we can do anything with Buffer and that. Because you can connect a YouTube channel to Buffer, no problem. I just don't know what the functionality is from it. So let me tinker with that. That might
I guess new video has been uploaded and then a tweet gets sent out, a new video has been uploaded, but I honestly won't put this for SIG recordings or meeting recordings. Then we basically just spam the account.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. What I'm saying is like there could be another API layer in Buffer that we could utilize potentially. I'm not sure. So that's there. And I only found out this morning because I was looking at channel connections in my account. So I don't know. I don't know what the functionality is there. I'll check the docs and see what's up.
Lots of good work going on there. I'm excited about the progress that we're making on this, which has been an action item for quite some time. So thank you all for working on this and trying to figure it out and get the tools together. Any other points around comms or we already kind of talked about moderation in media.
Do we have an update on the Twitter account?
Oh,
Yes. So Jeff did
We
some huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff did some digging. And what wound up happening is the group that managed that was a contractor.
ooh,
And that's fine. They basically
Yeah.
accessed it through like HubSpot.
yeah.
And their contract either terminated or they basically got tasked to doing something else. And they didn't even know. So the CNCF didn't even know that the Kubernetes.io Twitter account was not being used. So they would like to start using it again because they didn't know it wasn't, frankly, none of us really noticed it until someone else brought it up. So I kind of don't blame them there. How that is sorted out is going to be TBD. So,
Makes sense.
yep.
We have the staffing and are ready to help if they would like us
Yeah.
to be a part of it. But I'm
Yep.
also cool with it if they want to
They-
sort that out
they-
themselves.
So far, they are cool with sharing it. It's just trying to figure out
The
like
process and stuff.
yeah, how they want to go about it. Like the previous way stuff was shared was through TweetDeck, but that
Oh no, yeah, that's
Yeah.
gone.
it's there. You just have to pay money for it.
Right.
And that's not fun. So like it's essentially trying to decide how best they want to hook it in and plumb things together.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say also the CNCF lost some people who work in marketing and PR this year. So they may not even think about that until they've hired new people.
Right.
Yeah. Technically, like I still have access as long as I actually pay for TweetDeck.
Yeah. My other question is, by the end of the year, how much will we care about Twitter? But
Well,
Frankly, it's still the place to hit the largest audience.
Yeah, like that's where
Like-
everybody has built up their audiences.
Yeah,
There and
it's-
LinkedIn, right?
It's not like the contributors aren't necessarily on Twitter, but the
Yeah.
wider audience, the end users, the people that are consuming Kubernetes are still all on Twitter. And to me, like that is something we should still care about because that is one of the best outlets to hit a large
Yeah.
audience.
right. I'm just saying it's a steady downhill trajectory, and at some point it crosses a line where it's not worthwhile. And we
Yeah.
don't know when that will be.
the converse of that is that part of the reason I think nobody noticed that it wasn't being used is the number of people who just stopped using it and what the overlap is with the people who are very active on social media
Yeah.
who just stopped using Twitter.
Have we looked at I mean, this is not a comms meeting, but just out of curiosity, have we looked at doing Blue Sky, which does seem to be picking up a lot of users?
Is it?
Yeah. Now that they made it open and not invite only.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, we
personally-
did discuss that a couple meetings ago.
Out for that one. Yeah.
The big thing is right now that as far as I know, there isn't like anything that really integrates with it.
No.
Which I understand because it's essentially like the API itself is kind of in alpha
Flux.
beta
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
I personally like it more as a protocol than Mastodon.
Oh yeah.
And what we can do is basically we would be able to have the Kubernetes.io and Kates.dev accounts on there because it's all domain name based and domain name verification. So like I'm not worried about us having to, park an account because we'll be able to take over any account we want and be Kubernetes.io.
So I think we have some interest in doing that. We need to make sure that it works for Buffer. because
Yeah.
Buffer is the tool that we use to correlate all of our
Yeah.
tasks. So
Or at least Zapier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one nice thing is you can wait for Instagram threads to come to you, assuming that ever becomes a target platform, because they're working on integration with Mastodon. So from our perspective, it may not even be a separate platform by the time we want to use it.
Interesting.
I think the TLDR is we wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
According to it seems like that Buffer already supports things like Blue Sky if you use it in combination with your phone.
Really? Mm.
Yep. Can I
Last
jump
I
to
checked,
contributor
it didn't, but
documentation?
Yeah, it's not
that
like
may
a
have changed in the last
1-to-1.
couple of weeks.
Let me see.
Can I jump to contributor documentation? Because
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I
I
think
think we
let's
have
move
stuff
on.
to discuss. I guess my question for Bob is, so what's the state of the contributor guide? Because I've had a couple people reach out to me about contributing to it. Are our contractors done so that
Oh,
we
they've been
can-
done for a while now,
Okay.
like more than a year. They were done essentially when the course went live.
Okay. I was never sure when that was. The
Man,
okay.
For what it's worth, like if someone else wants to take ownership of it, if they're going to be like active and doing stuff, happy to pass the baton over to that. Otherwise I'm still cool with, like, frankly, I know the contributor docs and the processes really well.
You do, indeed.
Yeah. So
What's under wait, is it under the contributor site or is it in the community repo?
community repo, and I actually, like, there's a thread going on in an issue about consolidating documentation. Like Thakkin would like to keep some of more of the dev docs in KK right next to the files that they'd be impacting. And yeah, I'd have to go find it again, but there's an issue open about it. I do think we can just shove it all over the contributor guide onto the website.
Yeah.
Is my personal take.
Okay.
And Chris looked into the Blue Sky thing. It looks like they're working on Threads and Blue Sky integrations in Buffer, but it's not quite there yet.
No. Yeah, and Threads has like a, hey, notify me when available thing in my beta account. So
Yeah.
that's encouraging.
I mean, for that matter, right now, Threads is not really our audience.
No, not yet.
So we would only want to do it if it required zero additional effort or money.
Yeah.
Right. Or if there were additional benefits than just posting to Threads.
Yeah.
Like if it also went elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was essentially free, I would say why not post to Threads?
Well, yeah. I mean,
but it is not.
Nope.
Nothing is free anymore.
$10 a pop.
Okay.
At the moment.
Yeah. Okay. We also had another thread on contributor site this week. Recruiting people with more Hugo knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah, I would just like to know, other than myself, who else? Myself and Jiffy, who else has Hugo knowledge? And obviously, the docs team does. Bob does. You know, a bunch of us do. It's just if someone has something they want to do on the contributor site, or they want to write a blog post, or they need to send out an announcement and do that on blogs, who can help? Or we need to upgrade Hugo.
I was gonna say, wait, sending out a blog post does not require Hugo knowledge.
No, but it does require knowledge of the directory structure and so forth, so on. But updating it, keeping the theme squared away, updating backgrounds when we do contributor summits, that kind of thing. Those are
You
all
know, that stuff all sounds like there should be documentation for it.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I guess it's also the topic that the update of Hugo and of the other components, which is still open, and I know that Gphy worked on it, and because of time, it's now again laying around for since Chicago.
He tried updating some stuff and it broke.
Exactly.
And he didn't know why. I looked at it and found some things. Frankly, like I think what would need to happen is remove the customizations that I originally put in there. And basically just if it generates a broken link, it generates a broken link. It's a lot of the customizations are around like the like get URL and things like that. Instead of having on the page, I just completely remove that section. And a few other things like that.
An idea would be, can we put the contributor side into one of the subgroups? So for example, comms is also responsible for the contributor side, and then the tech folks in comms are able to work on the stuff, and they are the go-to people, or can ask other folks around if they need help, and so that we basically have someone who is responsible for the contrib side.
The big thing is just like you need someone that knows Hugo really well to be the owner.
Yeah. Knows Hugo themes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always a tough part.
And
yeah,
I do, but I don't have time for it. Like I'm
same.
I'm essentially if someone needs a review of something that can potentially break the site, I'm happy to dive in there, but I don't have time for other general stuff.
Yeah. The well, we had some people speak up in that thread. It also sounds like it might be useful to do another hack session at the Contributor Summit.
Yep.
If we can get knowledgeable Hugo people to lead that.
Something else that might honestly help is, we have the idea of what the contributor site will look like. We have all the assets. Essentially, regenerate the site with the latest version of Doxy and all that, and take the latest version and make it look, essentially work towards making it look like the contributor site. Because that you're no longer upgrading, you are
in the bits and bytes.
You are just trying to make it look like the current version.
Yeah. Are we still pulling stuff over from the community repo?
Yes.
On an automated basis? Because as last I recall, that was one of the big obstacles to really doing anything.
Yep.
A lot of that was very fragile.
Yep. I am all for just shoving contributor docs directly under the website. So that can be part of this big migration too.
Yeah, although there's some stuff like, well, we can deal with that later.
Yeah. There are some other assets that link to K community for things that would have to be changed. But
yeah, just some things. Like one of the things I've wanted forever is to actually have all the SIG stuff visible through the site. But I don't want to move that out of community because there's a whole bunch of infrastructure for it there.
Yeah, no, that would never get moved out of community. We not to just kind of like usurp the meeting a bit, but we are running short on time, and I at least want to discuss one thing in moderation and media.
Go for it.
Bots. We're getting a lot of them.
AI stuff or just
yeah. Fireflies AI, Otter.ai. And the Zoom solution, at least the last time I looked into it, was to basically disable API access altogether, but that would block our automation.
Yeah.
So that's
Ooh.
out of the picture. When discussing this in Chair and TL with some of the other leads, I think course of action is to like send an email out to the list, be like, hey, these are not approved. We, you know, if you have them, please stop doing it. After like a week, if they don't, send it again, name and shame, because a lot of these accounts have the person's name after them.
Yeah.
And after that, unfortunately, it doesn't tie back to an email. Like I've manually gone in and booted people from like the ContribEx list before that I've been able to track down. But the actually need to sort out like a solution, whether that is removing the passcode from the URLs so that way they don't know the passcode. And we just put that in like the notes. Or, you know, enabling the waiting room, which means that the rooms won't start until the leads are in, or whoever's has the host key is in, but need to think about actually coming up with something for this because they're getting really annoying.
And with 6 minutes left in the meeting, I don't think we're going to solve that problem right now, but it's something that folks should think about, and maybe we should bring up in our next meeting as well, because
Yeah.
I'm sure it will still be a problem.
The sending the email can definitely happen.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
I
See
would
how it goes.
I would recommend it come from like either UCaslin, Nabrun, like essentially one of the ContribEx leads. So you
Yeah.
can have like, you know, the official title on there being like, hey, this is bad.
Not allowed.
Please stop doing it.
Yeah. Use of these tools is not permitted. Yeah. And we have a discussion going on about that in Slack as well. So we'll work that out.
I would say maybe even a Slack blast for at least the initial announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, might not be a bad idea actually.
Because people
Well,
are not.
People don't always see kiddive stuff.
Yeah.
My guess is that the people that have it enabled probably have it enabled on an account. And I think the odds of them reading their people that aren't paying attention and just leave that open are probably more likely to read email than they are to read Slack. But that's just
Yeah.
That's why we spam it everywhere.
Yep, we hit both.
Yeah.
That is comms. Comms in a nutshell. How many places can we spam this so that people will actually see it?
Yeah.
Why is comms in my office?
If only we could be.
So actually, there is one thing. Once all the GitHub accounts are under the enterprise account, we will be able to post messages that will be seen at the top of the GitHub org.
Nice.
Interesting.
But that won't be for a bit still.
More ways to communicate with people.
Yeah. that one would be reserved for like specific things like elections. Like,
yeah. Cool. We have 3 minutes left. Are there any other last minute items that we'd like to discuss? Awesome. We covered a lot of really important things that have been on our to-do list for a long time today. And I'm excited that we're still thinking about these things and are trying at least to make progress. And on some of them, we're making great progress. So thank you all so much for your work on all of these things, for all the work that you will do in the future. Because there will be plenty. And with
it never
that,
ends.
It never ends. Are there any of the things that we already discussed that we want to spend the last couple of minutes on? Are we good to have a couple minutes back? Probably that one, I'm gonna guess. Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining today. And we'll say goodbye to the folks on YouTube.